Good morning. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, great. Welcome. So I think we're going to go ahead and get started. I don't know if someone's supposed to introduce me, but they don't need to, if anyone's there. So my name is Rhiannon Beauregard. I'm licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm an AMFT approved supervisor, an ASEC certified sex therapist, and you're having trouble hearing? Okay. We're good? Yes.
Before you get started,
Sure. Oh yes, there's an announcement.
I'm so sorry. I did not realize you were starting. Please forgive me for that.
No problem.
I'm so sorry. I just wanted to let you guys know that we are almost to our 10 grand. Pack closes at 12 o'clock noon, and we will be drawing for pack prizes around 12:30, between 12:30, 12:45 in AB. So thank you for your attention. Thank you so much for letting me know.
No problem. Just waiting for mine. There we go. Okay, great. So I introduced myself, Rhiannon. You can just call me Rhiannon. I'm here in Austin, Texas, but I am licensed in 5 states, and I work online. That's exactly what he told me not to do. He told me not to do that. So I work online in here. I have an office here in Texas, in Austin. And I'm licensed in 5 states, so I work in those 5 states. I started online work in 2011, so I've been doing it for a while, so that's why I come back each year to present on it. And while I transitioned completely online in 2014, I have since kind of been more of a hybrid practice where I see some clients in person in my office, and I see some clients online. So depending on the season or my client load, it can be anywhere from 80% of my clients online to 50% of my clients online. And that's just based on referrals. I do not market myself in Austin. There's tons of sex therapists here, but just your name gets out. I've been in practice for 11 years and people just want to come see me. So, okay, so how many of you were at my presentation last year? Thank you for coming back. Okay. I really appreciate that. And if you didn't come to the presentation last year, because this is kind of a more advanced level, I put it on my website, and it also should be on the app. I uploaded it. I don't know if anyone saw that, but, and so it's not important that you weren't here last year. This is just a little bit more advanced. We're not going to cover some of the basic stuff that we did. And so I'll talk about what we're going to cover and what we're not. So I always like to remind myself what were the goals of the presentation when I submitted the proposal, because that's what I'll be evaluated on. So my hope by the end of this presentation is that you all gain more advanced knowledge on how to do this well. We'll talk about some more advanced ethical stuff. So some of the basic ethics stuff we addressed last year, this is a little bit more advanced. And then if I have time, because I have like 72 slides, and I apologize by that, and I will not kill you, I will not kill you with the slides, but I want to talk about how what I am doing is not just delivering services, but online therapy is its own model in and of itself. I'm not just taking internal family systems and delivering it online. I'm doing something much different. That the premise is our health and relationships often is a foundation of our health to technology. And so with the younger generation specifically, if we don't have a healthy relationship with the internet, with information, with technology, with data, our other relationships are affected too. So I'm gonna try to have time to do that, because that's kind of interesting, cool, neat, but I have a ton of neat stuff, because I think this is a lot of the information that y'all are looking for. So the 3 things I'm gonna cover for ethical considerations: HIPAA compliance, risk assessment, and crisis management. And then I'm going to talk about my setup. So I brought some things of 8 years of doing this. I know some of the good stuff, some of the bad stuff, some of the stuff you should spend money on to do it well, and some of the stuff that you shouldn't. And I've also seen, because I offer online mentoring for people who want to get into telehealth or who need additional mentoring on how to the logistics of it, etc. Kind of like supervision, but more like a mentoring guidance type thing, or if they want to set up an online only practice. And I've seen some pretty terrible setups, had some pretty bad technology, so I want to share that with you. So you can do this well. And then if I have time. And always feel free to interrupt with questions. If we derail or whatever, I will just derail us back in. But, so you can find part 1 on my presentations. I will put this presentation up there on my website as well. All of my presentations I've ever presented are on my website, so if you really want to dive into like a Rhiannon rabbit hole and see everything I've talked about, feel free to spend an afternoon looking at all my presentations. And so we're not going to cover laws, rules, and regulations. It's out there. We're just not going to talk about like interstate practice. It's all out there. Everything that you need to know, I put on the app. And it's also on my website. Best practices from AMFT, the Texas Administrative Code, the MFT Regulatory Board's draft of online telehealth, the part 6 of our Code of Ethics, AMFT Code of Ethics, all that stuff is on the app. I'm not gonna go into that. It's pretty clear on all of that. I'm gonna go into more of like doing it. And then the common ethical considerations. Can I practice in another state that I'm not licensed in? We're not gonna do that. My client went to college in another state. Can I continue to see them? We're not gonna do that, okay? We're gonna go through some of this stuff. So apologies if you came for that basic information. It's all on that other presentation. Oh, also, I recorded that presentation on my YouTube channel. I think the link is also on my website. So if you want that information, again, feel free to watch that video. It'll go over all that stuff. But this is just a little bit more advanced. Okay, I'm not gonna kill you with HIPAA compliance. I'm not gonna read all these slides. I'm just gonna give you the high points, okay? So there's a guy, Roy Huggins, who's doing some really cool work called person-centered tech. And his whole mission is to make mental health therapists not be afraid of technology and telehealth, and to try to inspire boards of mental health practice to not be so regulatory about this stuff and not be so fear-based, because it is very fear-based. So there's 2 points around HIPAA compliance, which is reasonable and appropriate. Did you take reasonable and appropriate measures to secure confidentiality? Okay, it's just reasonable and appropriate, okay? Because we can get into like, is my cell phone confidential? Did I take reasonable and appropriate measures to password protect my cell phone? You know, like that, and then the second part is documented. Those are just, we don't have to get crazy around what level of encryption we need or anything like that. Just did you take reasonable and appropriate measures, and did you document it in your policies and procedures manual? And that, I'm not pushing my online mentoring. Please don't think I am. But that's something I help my mentees do, is develop a policies and procedures manual that addresses some of this stuff. Because if you documented that this is what you did to protect confidentiality, you're being compliant around this stuff. So I'm not gonna read all of these because I don't wanna kill you. But I'm gonna just highlight the last one. Non-fear-based information about technology issues that impact mental health professionals, okay? Last year, I feel like when the regulations from Texas came out, it was so fear-based, like, what's gonna happen if my client goes to another state? And it's not that, it's not that difficult. I mean, we're all professionals, we all follow a code of ethics. I don't necessarily agree with the regulations, and I've been pretty vocal about that, because I think my purpose is to take care of my clients. But I follow them begrudgingly, but the idea is we're gonna do non-fear-based information. So you'll see me talk about this, like, don't be afraid to do telehealth. I want you to do telehealth. I love telehealth. So just 3 myths I think I go over here. HIPAA says I cannot send emails to clients unless they're encrypted, okay? The truth. And I'm not gonna read all of these because I will let you all read them. Also, HIPAA believes that the client has the right of autonomy around their confidentiality. So if your client chooses to text you or email you protected health information, you are not in HIPAA violation. Your client has the right to share information with you any way they would like to. It's you can't share the information, okay? So we get all up in it, like, don't contact me on my Gmail, contact me only on this, whatever, you know? The idea here is the client has the right to do whatever they want with their information. You want to keep your PHI protected, okay? So I can only use HIPAA compliant products and services. This is important. We are HIPAA compliant. Services, technology is not. Okay, so when something says that they're HIPAA compliant, they're actually really not. Like, they're saying that this puts you in HIPAA compliance, but a software, a product can't be HIPAA compliant because they're not bound by HIPAA, we are. So that's just important to distinguish when you're talking about I'm using a secure video HIPAA compliant software, you're HIPAA compliant, okay? Last one, can't use my smartphone to take payments. Again, reasonable and appropriate, and did you document it? So, do you have a business associate agreement with your like constant contact? I use it for marketing. I have a business associate agreement with them because it stores addresses and phone numbers. As far as payment, again, reasonable and appropriate. Do you use is PayPal, like, I don't use PayPal, so I haven't researched PayPal, but is PayPal, can you reasonably and appropriately document that you protected your client's information? My guess is yes. PayPal's pretty secure, I would say, but I would look at their policies. And then I would, again, document. Keep a folder on your computer with these things, that this is what I did. I looked this up, I contacted PayPal. I don't know, has anyone ever gotten a business associate agreement with PayPal? I don't know about that. I use Cayenne. It's an integrated system with my EHR. So it's all part of the same thing, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it because I feel like the fees are high. Some people use Fat Merchant. What are some other things that people use? Square. Does anyone have a BAA with Square?
It's right on their website.
Okay, perfect.
IVPay works.
IVPay, okay, yeah. So again, just reasonable and appropriate. Don't get crazy about it. Just download it, get it signed. No big deal. Just document it, reasonable, appropriate. Okay, any questions on that? I just wanted to fly through that. Risk assessment. Okay, so this is a big one. Every professional has a different tolerance for risk. I feel as a sex therapist, I have kind of a higher tolerance for risk. I work with riskier clients. I have to deal with riskier ethical issues. I work with sexual compulsivity, so there's just a higher level. I also work out of my home. I have a home office. Higher level of risk, I feel like. I would never have done that at the beginning of my career, but 11 years of practice, I love it. And my clients love, love, love it, okay? But so there are plenty of you that would never invite your clients to your home. Tolerance of risk, okay? So when we're talking about risk, you have to determine what you're comfortable with. There isn't a set recipe of what client is not good for online work versus another client is. There have definitely been clients that have been very psychiatrically involved that I may not normally, as a sole provider, have provided online work for, telehealth for, but they had an existing therapist. So I collaborated with that therapist because many people on psychiatric medications have sexual dysfunction and they need a sex therapist to help them work through that. So it's your level of risk that you are willing to. If you want to make in your policies and procedures that you don't take anyone with active suicidal ideation, it's up to you about your tolerance of risk. I definitely have clients that have come with me for a while and then they'll have some suicidal ideation. Am I gonna eject them from my practice, And the answer for me is no, because I can tolerate that level of risk provided we have a safety plan. So this is about, you wanna assess the risk for you and your client. So malpractice insurance, licensing laws, ethical codes, guidelines to practice, scope of practice. Everybody has a different tolerance for this. My question often is this the best modality for you to work in? And given the style of therapy you do, is this the best way to deliver them? Okay, so in the later slide, I talk about models of therapy I've used online that I felt lended well, and models of therapy that I felt have not lended well to online. Like high conflict couples, super difficult online. It's like you're not there. High conflict couples where they're in 2 different locations, extra difficult. But that's just my experience. you know, if you work in a more experiential model, is there a way that you can work on it online? Is that the best modality for you, kind of thing? And then assess the risk for the client. Is this the best modality for the presenting issue? Will this be best for them? And then the assessment, suicidal ideation, domestic violence, substance abuse, severe mental health issues. Who is actively doing telehealth right now? Even if it's just one client a week. Great. And we can just start with one client a week. I really want all of you to leave here and be like, telehealth, yes, let me just do it. Like, start with one client a week. No big deal. Have a client who says, you know, it's too much of a hardship to come here, or a client who may have just had a little baby and needs to do therapy more accessible. Like, just start with one client a week. So of the people that are doing it right now, do you have any policies or procedures that exclude any of those populations, like as a blanket statement, from online therapy? Yeah, I don't either. Not that you would volunteer in like a group of professionals, but you know, it's tough with borderline. Yes.
I moved to another city. Some people I haven't seen for 30 years will call me and they'll do online therapy, but I've done it for 30 years or less than that. But I don't think I personally would feel comfortable taking somebody who I had already worked with, or I had at least had one session with, and sit down so that I could read. But that might be a special situation because I moved.
So I'll just repeat what she said for those that didn't hear it. She moved to another city and she had clients, long-term clients that she was comfortable with doing telehealth, but she wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable taking on a new client without meeting them first. Did I gather that right?
Except all the clients that I saw before, I have had sit-down sessions with.
Okay, yeah, so the face-to-face is important for you before, yeah, and I actually say like in office or in person versus telehealth, because it is face-to-face, so it gets confusing, like my face is here, your face is here, so I say in person. So you met with your clients in person before seeing them on telehealth. Yeah, and that is your personal decision. There are definitely some states that are finding that as like required, but our state is not one of them. So you don't have to meet with your clients face-to-face in person. But again, that's tolerance of risk or just comfortability about how you work and the models that you work in. It may be really important. I try to meet all of my clients at least once. And it's funny how that works out because a lot of people come to Austin from the states I work in for conferences. So they'll come for a conference, they'll stay an extra day, and they'll have an extended session in my office with me, which is really cool. Like, that's a really special thing. So I try to make the effort to meet all of them once, but it's not required for our work. Okay, so verification and age for non-anonymous services. When I say, because telehealth is like hotline stuff too, that's not what we're really talking about. You're gonna need to know who your clients are. There are some ethical codes, not MFT, but there are some ethical codes that require us to have verification of age and identity. I just asked for a copy of a photo ID for all clients. It's interesting, like they may not, like, would I do that in my in-person office? Like, not necessarily, but I like to do, and no one says this is just my policy and procedure, 2 forms of verification of who I'm talking to. Photo ID, and usually it's the credit card. Does the name match the photo ID and the name on the credit card? That way I know who I'm talking to. And with sex therapy too, or all of us, like if anything were to happen or we would ever need to report, if we don't know, if we have a fake name and a fake address because we're working online, which we wouldn't know that if we were in office too. Like, let's say your client pays cash and just shows up. You know, we wouldn't necessarily know that we knew the name that they put on their intake paperwork was correct. So it's not like an online thing, it's just like a general idea to think about, right? Like, it's not just online specific. Other risks. Does anyone see any other risks around online work besides risks to you and risks to the client? I hope this is not really loud. It's like ASMR. Any other risks? I mean, there are a bunch, but.
The confidentiality. You know, could somebody access that, a
That's a great question, because I think a lot of times that stops us from doing this. Can I ensure confidentiality? Because the internet seems really insecure, right? In a sex therapy world, when Ashley Madison's lists got hacked, which is the like affair, sex, sugar baby, sugar daddy, I don't know, it evolves now that Backpage got closed down. Ashley Madison has kind of turned it, and if you don't know what this is, you don't need to. As a sex therapist, I do, but, or though maybe your clients do know, but that might be like another presentation altogether. But yeah, a ton of my clients' information was out there, right? And it was published. And I had a few clients that got into trouble with their relationships because it was published, because I work with sexual compulsivity and out of control sexual behavior. So the fact is, I come back to the reasonable and appropriate and documenting, because in all honesty, and I'm not gonna get political and I don't really know too much about it, but the Patriot Act kind of usurps anything we're about to talk about. So confidentiality is like, do your best. Because really, we don't have, like, we can't protect ourselves completely from any of it. The fact is that, and I also let my clients know, like, you know, this is encrypted, it's a platform for telehealth and telemedicine, but as far as our sessions, like, I'll never record them, but I have no control over it. And most of the clients, like, we live in this world, like, we have no control over anything that we have access to, right? Like, you know, they make special discs to put over the camera in your laptop so that, like, the FBI isn't watching you, right? Like, I can't ensure any of that, right? So I just do my best. And our clients are living in that world too. The other factor is that, could we 100% ensure confidentiality in our offices? I think about this sometimes. Like, when I was working in an office, could I ensure that someone wasn't putting their ear against the door? Could I ensure that someone hadn't somehow spy-like installed a camera and microphone that I didn't know about? Like, could I ensure 100%? I don't think so. And we'll talk a little bit about sound transmission too, on how to do it well. So I come back to just do your best. And make sure the clients know the risk, but they live in this world, which is part of my online work. They live in kind of an insecure world.
I think the other thing we have to do, I worked in a hospital setting, we had to coach our clients to find places to talk privately about their own concerns, which really surprised me, but they were willing to talk, you know, in a coffee shop, and that didn't necessarily ensure the best counseling session for them, so.
Absolutely. Clients don't always realize that what they're talking about needs to be private, right? They're just like, they're so consumed in their own process, they just want help. So you're totally right. So in my policies, in my informed consent, I talk about, like, it's your responsibility to ensure a confidential space. And you can kind of tell, like, what's going on. Like, if if I'm hearing your family eating dinner, your family's hearing you. So an option that a lot of my clients opt for is their car, not while driving, because I have a policy of no distracted therapy. But they'll go out to their car, or they'll on their lunch break, and that actually, they're comfortable there too, and that works for them. But might prohibit a client. I have had it, they just couldn't find a confidential space. They were in college, they didn't have a car, they couldn't, you know, they could have gone to their counseling center and said, I want to have an online therapy session with my client, can I use a conference space? But they didn't, you know, so it actually prohibited them. I saw one other question, and then I'll move on. No? Yes? Working with minors. You know, I don't work with minors anymore. When I did, I followed, like, the traditional kind of legal part of it, paperwork signing, connection with the parents. I will tell you that when I did work with minors here, this is an awesome modality for them. This is so good. They're super compliant. Instead of being dragged to the therapy session, they log on, they talk to you, they have access to tag, and in my model of online therapy, that's what I talk about. Is one of the interventions is access to information and helping your clients access healthy information instead of unhealthy information. When we have toxicity in relationships, like trolls online, how do we help our clients not engage with toxic relationships online and have healthy relationships online. And so because that's where we're moving. So I don't know if that answered your question because it was open-ended. So I gave you an open-ended answer, right? It's a good open-ended question. Minors love this. They don't want to be dragged to a therapy session. They'd love to log online and talk to their therapist. And I'll show, if I have time, there's never enough time. Okay, risk assessment, check with your malpractice insurance. I use CPH, which is through AMFT, and they say as long as you're complying with your licensing regulations, they'll cover telehealth too. Okay, so if any, and again, I document this. CPH has a policy. I download the PDF, I put it in a file on my computer on insurance. So I have that documentation. Crisis management. Okay, this is not that much different than what you're doing with your clients anyways, or could be doing with your clients. If you work with low-risk clients, you might not be doing this every time. But so I recommend a safety plan with each client as soon as possible. If there's absolutely no suicidal ideation, I'm working on sexual self-esteem, they're in a healthy relationship, the risk is super low, I might do this on an as-needed basis. But if I have a client, like many clients with sexual issues that come to my practice, there is the suicidal ideation of this is just so hard, I just don't want to be here anymore. Because sexuality has a way of getting into that inner core of their being and their value and their self-worth. So there have been thoughts. Not necessarily I want to die, but more thoughts like, this is hard and I don't want to do it anymore. And I'll never be okay, kind of thing. So I put this in my informed consent, where I said, I may speak to a member of your family or another clinician without your consent if something happens. And I go over that with them in case I've never, ever had to do it. Okay, so it's and then I have my clients as one of my first interventions as we talk about any type of risk or ideation. I have them with me come up with this. Closest emergency room, closest police station, local emergency numbers, closest local psychiatric inpatient facility, not just the ER, because I find that if there is one that can do a crisis admission, it's better than the ER. And again, have never had to use this with my online clients. Contact phone number for local therapists, and I'll talk, I do encourage my clients to have a local therapist or access to a local center in case they needed, because I'm not a crisis practice, private, single, just me. Okay, and then in case of emergency, who do I contact that would know what happened to you? Okay, and I put that, and then I make sure I have permission to contact that person. I have an unrealistic and unreasonable fear that I will be, maybe not that unreasonable, but that I will be online in session and I will see my client be a victim of a crime or a home invasion. Okay, I just am that would be the worst thing, what would I do, right? When you have this, and I'm not trying to instill any fear at all, it's just I listen to a lot of crime podcasts and it just comes up in my brain. But I would be able to, when I have verification of identity, I'll have an address on a license, right? I'll have access to that. So even if the address has changed and they never updated it, but I'll have address of the license. And MFT best practices says that you should verify where your client is at every session. It's up to you, okay? Because it gets kind of annoying. Can you tell me where you're located right now? It's kind of invasive and annoying. It's up to you about the clients. If you see the same backdrop over and over and over again, you can kind of assume where your client, maybe they're in their office, but if you see a different backdrop, you might want to check in with your client. And AMFT best practices says that's to verify that they're in the state that you're licensed in, not to verify if they're safe or if something were to happen. This is the problem. The regulations are designed to follow the law, not necessarily to protect the client. I think the regulations have lost sight of that. They've made laws to protect the public from this danger of online therapy. All right, I'm obviously I can get a little heated on those things, so I'm gonna move on. Coordination of care, this is big. If something were to happen, you were to refer, it's important to have that local contact. I think that's really important, that they have someone locally that they can connect with. And then a reassessment. So if you have a long-term client that had a crisis go on, I want you to reassess on whether online therapy is still enough. And where this happens most common is that I'll work with a client, and then they'll have a really big relapse. I use that word for whatever reason, mental health, addiction, sexual compulsivity, they'll have a really big relapse. And then I'll say, I think you need a higher level of care. And here's what you need. I can be a part of that care, but you need a higher level, because sometimes the online is just not high enough. So whether that's an IOP or more sessions or whatever. So reassessing after that. I included my informed, oh, this is important, the teletherapy and electronic therapy informed consent. This is on my website under forms. So feel free to use it. If you like rip too much of it, give me credit, but if you just like borrow some of it, like it's just words, but I specifically say certain things in this to have on top of my already informed consent about electronic therapy. I won't go into it because you can just read it what I put. A unique thing that I do that I did not put up here is I have social media policies and it's on my website, you can totally borrow it. I ask my clients, like, I will not friend you, although my Facebook page is only professional, I will not friend you. I will not interact with you social media-wise. You're welcome to interact with my public stuff, but I ask, like specifically, I ask them not to Google search me beyond what they need to know whether I'm the right therapist for them. In a time where unlimited information is, I think that's a really clear boundary. And I say that I will not Google search them unless there's a reason why therapeutically, or if they haven't shown up to session. And I put that in the policy, which is on my website too, you can borrow. So if they haven't shown up for session or they missed a session, first thing I'm gonna go do is like check out social media, like did they post, got in a car accident in the hospital or whatever, right? I never ever look at my clients, anything. And I expect them to do the same with me. That doesn't always happen, but I've had some borderline clients that will really exploit personal information, whether they see online. And no matter how much you put privately, even accomplishments, like if you're written up or you wrote an article or something, they'll really exploit that personal information. So, but they don't follow the rules anyway, so it's like, but I set the boundary. Any questions? Those are 3 ethical things. Yes, ma'am. Yes, okay, yeah. And you can only, according to Texas current regulations, if you're licensed in Texas, you can only see clients in Texas. Okay?
If all state laws following that rule, you have to be licensed in their state to practice.
Not all states.
You know any that are not?
So some states determine, it gets sticky, and I'll answer this question, then I won't, because I don't want to get bogged down in the rules and regulation, but I will answer this question. So some states say that therapy is occurring where the therapist is. Some states say that therapy is occurring where the client is. Some states have started to put in a clause that as long as you're licensed in your jurisdiction, not in MFT, but other mental health practices, okay, like LPC and psychology. But MFT will follow once the board's that if you are, at least to my knowledge, because I can't keep up with all 50 states, but I know a lot of them, okay, that if you are licensed in your jurisdiction, you can provide therapy short-term. Sometimes they say no more than 30 visits. But I can't get into this, but this law is completely not cool. All right, because it also can restrict in-person practice, cross lines. Like if I can't provide therapy for a client who is, living in Oklahoma, but I live on the border, but I'm licensed in Texas, it just gets very sticky. So I'm not gonna get into this. I don't like the regulations. I think they're hyper restrictive and not in the client's best interest. Because if we're licensed in our jurisdiction, what's the problem?
What if they send me to the in-depth on their vacation in the Bahamas? It's my clients, but we're on site there. Destination therapy. What's the matter if I'm the one that's getting paid?
Texas would say that you need to make sure that you're following the rules of the jurisdiction that you're in. So if the Bahamas says that you can't give therapy to someone who You can't give therapy unless you're licensed in the Bahamas or whatever. You can't do that. All right, so I will answer all these questions after, but I really want to get to this. I will answer all of these.
How many states are you licensed in?
5.
That's expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Like, I don't, I've been licensed in them for so long. I'm like, yeah.
With being licensed in 5 states, how many of your clients are in each of those states? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so because I have a niche, and we can talk, that's what I do with the online mentoring, is help people market their practices too. Because I have a niche of sex therapy, where the majority of my clients come from places that aren't served by sex therapy. So, like Massachusetts has a lot of sex therapists. They have a couple big centers, Boston, Worcester, and Northampton. I don't get a ton from there. Maine, New Hampshire, upstate New York, I would say are about 50% of my online clients. 50% are Texas that are on the border, West Texas, the Panhandle. I have a lot of therapist clients because in their small towns, they're like the only therapist, and they may not even need sex therapy. They might just need a therapist, and they like me, they like my energy, they like my approach. So it's the areas because, and in marketing this, it's really like where are people underserved from my perspective too. And because I'm private pay, it is an economic distribution too. So I'm gonna be in areas that are a little bit of higher income and underserved. Okay, so this is how you do it. So you're ready to do it. If you're not already doing, say I wanna have a telehealth client, what do I do? How do I make this? One is that it took me 8 years to do all this stuff. Just do your best and get started. You'll learn along the way, okay? So sound, this is really important. I work from home. I have a separate suite in my home. It has a large office, attached restroom, separate entrance in the back, waiting area, and like a closet where I hide like my total chaotic mess so my clients don't see it. So like, like your desk that's like hidden in a walk-in closet. So when I moved there, most bedrooms have hollow wood doors. This is the biggest piece of advice I would give to you about sound. If you're gonna work from home or in an office that has a hollow door, meaning you knock on it and it sounds like it's hollow, it's not good enough for sound. You need to install a solid wood door. At this point, I've installed 2 solid wood doors, one for the office and one for, I just had a baby. And thank you. He's 9 weeks old and here I am. Thank you. Yeah, and I installed one for the nursery, so his sound can keep contained, and my sound is 100% contained, because I also have some weather stripping too. But, and I can talk a little bit more about that, but where air goes, sound goes. So even if your office door, this is not just for online, but even if your office door, you can see light on any part, mostly the biggest one is down below. Where air goes, sound goes. So if you wanna just secure your office for more confidentiality, install a door sweep, get your maintenance person to. I have a door guy. It's a valuable guy to have. Doors are like really difficult. They're not like, it's a difficult DIY project, I will say. Okay, check windows too. Where air flows, sound flows. And this is the biggest common confidentiality issue, is the venting system in offices. Okay, it's just something to be aware of, reasonable and appropriate, do your best and document. In all my policy and procedure, when I talk about confidentiality, I talk about the solid wood doors, the weather stripping, the sound machines, and the door sweeps. And do sound testing. So like, so the baby's new, and I work from home, I'll talk about why it's awesome to have telehealth, because I am exclusively breastfeeding, and I have the baby in the nursery with grandma or the nanny. I see 2 clients, I go breastfeed. I see 2 clients, I go breastfeed. So, because as a private practice, we don't get maternity leave, right? So I do something. But I didn't want to hear the crying. Although I hallucinate and do hear the crying. I don't know if that's like a thing, like I always hear the crying, right? It actually comes through the white noise. Do you ever hear like stuff in the white noise machine? Like, I don't know what that is, really freaky, but So yeah, so sound testing. Like we sat, the baby was having a thing. I was in the office, couldn't hear him. Could hear him cry through the sound machine though somehow, but it's just very weird. Okay, so the professional setting. This is one of my favorite clips. Has anyone seen this? I love this. My back can be to it, he said. Otherwise, we'll get feedback. Oop. Okay, so this is really important, not just for clients, but for supervisees too. Supervisees, when I see them online, they will have like, I'll be like looking at their like dirty laundry, a toilet, like, just want to keep it like a little professional. But let me pull up this. This is one of my favorite. Where is it?
Scandals happen all the time. The question is, how do democracies respond to those scandals?
And what will it mean for the wider region? I think one of your children has just walked in. I mean, shifting sands in the region. Do you think relations with the North may change?
I would be surprised if they do. Pardon me. My apologies.
For the region.
My apologies. North Korea, South Korea's policy choices on North Korea have been severely limited.
That's good, right? Yeah, so you want to make sure that like that can't happen, right? Like it's powerful information when you see it happen to your clients, because that gives an insight to the world that you wouldn't see in the office. But you got to keep your space professional. That's really important. But I've told, like, I have never had family but my landscaping guy. And no matter how many times I've told him, like, if I'm in session, but he always wants to come in and check, like, if I'm doing okay and if my lawn looks good, right? And so I have a separate entrance, he'll come in the back. So you want to try to minimize those. I mean, it happens though. When you're in office practice, like, someone might knock on a door and be like, you know, are you so-and-so? You know, it will happen, so it's not huge, and it definitely humanizes you, right? But you want to just make sure that it's set up. Like, I've done supervision sessions, and I'll see a husband walk in, husband walk out. You just need to set, like, this is the place where we don't kind of do that, right? Okay, I don't want to, I think I'm having you see something else. Okay, let me get back to my presentation. How are we doing on time? 10:13. Good, we're doing okay. All right, cool. Is that audio? Does anyone, oh no, it's back there. It's the white noise. Okay, professional setting. Let me go back down so I can see this. Okay. This is actually my old studio. One of the great things I love about telehealth is I have a back injury. How many people's like back or tailbones like on fire at the end of the day, like doing therapy? It's tough work on our back, guys. So what I loved about telehealth is I got this zero gravity chair that kind of looks like an office chair in the back, even though it sort of looks like a lawn chair here. And I got a reclining desk for my laptop. And you see my little dog. She's a retired therapy dog. And my license is behind, because in some states you're required to have your license in view while you're online, you know? So it's like, gets so nitpicky, it's like, why? But so my back would feel great in this. My knees, my hips, all of it would feel fantastic in it. But when I was sitting in the office chair, and if you're in pain and we're, you know, sitting for a long period of time, this is a great thing. Now, since this, I upgraded to a glorious Relax the Back recliner. I love this thing. I highly recommend it. 11 years it took for me to get like a really nice chair, and I do recline. I got this. So I'll sit in that recliner, and there are a bunch of these like this out on the market, but it adjusts to meet like your specific needs on seeing your clients so that you can sit in maybe a more comfortable chair. Or, I'm sorry?
What do you call the chair?
It's a Relax the Back chair. Relax the Back is like the back-friendly store, yes. No, it isn't. No, my chair's brand new. My chair is brand new. I meant to take a picture of it, but the baby. Like that's all I can say is there's a 9-week-old, right? But maybe what I'll do is I'll post it on my Facebook page, and my Facebook page is professional, so you don't need to friend me, you can just peruse it. I'll post a picture of my stuff on my Facebook page when I do it. So my back feels so good at the end of the day. It's like I can put a heating pad on it in case it's really rough. This is what I use, and it's the same studio, it's the same office, so that's the other thing too. When I use this setup, I would fold up the chair and put it into the closet and the desk when I saw my in-person clients. Now that I have a fancy new recliner, I just put this in the closet and then see my in-person clients. So I just make that easy transition.
Where'd you get that?
Honestly, this is like a millennial thing to say, like I saw it on Instagram. but there's a bunch, if you just look at like collapsible, expandable desk, I will try to find the order number and also put it on my Facebook page, okay? I'm sure I have it in my email somewhere. But it's cool because it's, you know, it's constantly adjusting. So if you sit in a different chair, it's a neat thing, simple, like $30 probably. Okay, technology. I'd say you don't need to have like crazy fancy stuff. Like obviously I have like the best iPhone, the fancy the Mac, and I will say it does make a difference, but I do this like full time. But you don't have to have that. But what you do have to have, is a solid and secure internet. No exceptions. If your internet is spotty, you cannot do this work. Period, done, over, word. That's the best thing I can say. Now your clients, I work with a lot of clients in rural areas that don't have great internet. So that's something I have to talk to my clients with, because if we can't communicate consistently, we can't do the work either. Oftentimes they move to be telephone clients, or we'll keep the delayed video up, but use the phone for the audio because the audio is too delayed. And it may be limit your work with certain clients. Like if we can't get the tech together, we can't do it. There's this amazing fantasy that working online will give you the opportunity to travel the world. You don't have to have an office. You can just see clients from all over the world. Texas really shut that down. So that fantasy is because then you have to verify every jurisdiction that you're in, whether you can practice therapy or not, according to Texas laws. So that fantasy's out, goodbye. The other thing I'll just say is that hotel Wi-Fi is notoriously terrible. And unless you pay, so whenever I travel, I make sure I pay for like the deluxe Wi-Fi. The free Wi-Fi is notoriously terrible. But like, for example, last year the conference was in Irving, and I saw clients on all 3 nights when I was there. What was I thinking? Why didn't I take the nights off? I don't even know why. Maybe I just poorly planned or something. I don't normally overwork that much, but, and I made sure I had a white noise machine. I tested it with my partner outside. Can you hear me speaking? Oh, and that's the other thing around sound, around wearing headphones. So I've tried a bunch of different things. I tried this because I thought it would make me look all professional. It's terrible sound. Like I was like, oh, I'm gonna be cool. Terrible sound. You can barely hear the person, they can barely hear you. The best I can find are the Apple direct to your computer earpods. This is the best sound out there. It makes you look like a millennial. Like I was concerned about like my professionalism, but I've done tons of sound work, and these are the best. So you don't have to overthink it. You can just get a pair of these. I think now that this is the port and they have the lightning port, these are like 20 bucks or something. They're not very expensive. And this is so important around that reasonable and appropriate confidentiality. If you say you use headphones for every session, that means you've cut down anybody hearing your client and all they hear is you. So again, reasonable and appropriate. Okay, and if you're gonna do this work, it's essentially you have a newer computer with a faster processing speed. It does not have to be that fancy. Yes?
I am constantly losing a connection because I'm in the mountains. And it's really a problem in a huge area of the country. And do you have any suggestions, solutions? I warn people, I acknowledge
Yeah, so the first suggestion I would say is splurging for the highest level internet. Like we tend to go budget and be like, how much do I really use this? But like going to the highest level pay, so you,
I'm doing this on the phone when I'm back.
oh, you're losing the connection on the phone.
Yes.
On a landline too?
Yeah.
You're losing the connection on a landline.
Oh, no, there is no landline.
Can you get a landline?
Sometimes, but you know, if I'm remote,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna do the connection. I'm gonna drive to someplace where I can get it, but I don't go for a landline. Maybe that's what I need to do.
landline would be the way to do it. Yeah, to get that connection if you're doing the phone. Yeah.
Certainly, even with precautions, there can still be issues that it took us 10 minutes to get connected. What's your policy around if you start late or?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I saw that one, and then I'll move on, so I'll get back to you. So I think I mentioned a backup, but very rarely do I have tech issues because it's just like a well-oiled machine at this point, and I think I attract clients who want online work that are relatively tech savvy. My first session, all my clients enter my practice through a 90-minute assessment session, and I will block off 2 hours for that. So I give myself some time for payment, for blah, 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 because it's usually the first session. The other issue is that the difference between the free, you certainly, if you're gonna just start, like don't get crazy about it. If you're just starting with one client, don't worry too much about this. Chances are it'll work fine. But my system I pay for, and they have 24-hour customer service. So my clients can call them and work through that with them either in session or after session at another time. Or if they're having trouble, because I do encourage them to download the program, it's just an app, secure video. Encourage them to download the program and just test it first. If they have any issues prior to our session, that to call the customer service line. And the customer service line is incredible to walk them through what's going on. Every once in a while there'll be a problem, right? Like someone's like iPad won't let them access the sound or the video or whatever. And in that case, we often do phone, because that's usually like the final frontier around it. It's not ideal if we're doing a video conferencing, but if it's like an emergency situation. If we're running late because of my tech issues, which is rarely ever, obviously I just run late for the day, you know, like if we're running late because of theirs and it's truly just like an accident, my policies say that either I will extend the session to make sure that they get the full, or I will tell them that I will add the time that they missed onto our next session if I'm going back to back, and then I'll schedule them for that. And usually that's like a fine solution too. I liken it to traffic. You know, when your clients are late because of traffic, what do we do? Like if it's and it's up to you personally in your practice, right? Like, you know, sometimes we can't plan for that, and do you make those accommodations? That's what I liken it to. But at the same token, I know my client, I keep my practice small. I consider it like boutique-y. I only have 20 clients a week. And that works for me. And I know my clients like so well that I would just like, if it was a freakish technology situation, and they often have like, my clients often have a laptop, a tablet, and a phone, and you can get the app on your phone too. You don't need to have it on your laptop or tablet. So there's a lot of things, and usually it takes like 3 or 4 minutes to get it going. It's very rare that it happens, but yes.
I'm a little confused. You talk about using earphones and you connect it directly to your computer and you use your iPhone because there's less delay.
No, that's a great question. I use my computer. My iPhone isn't a part of it, it's just backup. So the headphones for me, I'm headphones into my computer, but if they have a delay on their issue, they might use their phone. So if they can't get the video, they may use their phone, we may do a phone session, or they may use their phone to log into the video conferencing system that I have. And what you might confuse about is that, let's say we have video, but it's delayed, but the audio is like incomprehensible. We'll use audio on the phone and video on the computer, even though it's like spotty, just so they can still see me, kind of thing. So
Is the app called secure video?
it is, yeah, it uses Zoom. So everybody's mostly probably, if you've done webinars, familiar with Zoom, but it is, it's not free. It has 24-hour customer service. They sign a BA. It's specifically designed for telemedicine and telehealth. There's a lot of other stuff out there. Let me see if I talk about platforms. Okay, I talked about audio, visual, lighting. Okay, this is one of the biggest issues that I find with people is that their space is not professionally lit. Meaning it doesn't look professional. It doesn't mean you have to have a professional to light your stuff. It just doesn't look professional. Too dark, weird sun shining your backdrop. And so it's really important that, we create our office space to be conducive to healing. It's important that you're looking like you're in a healing space too. So lighting varies throughout the day. My office is best lit through, for online, through natural light. But in the evenings, I have special bulbs and a few static lights that I have put around my office to make it look nice. But if you don't have that, and you haven't done this for 8 years, and you have terrible lighting, I will show you what I use for my YouTube channel, which you can feel free to log on to. It can be a good time. So. And I think I show, yes, okay. I show these two comparisons. So you would be here. These are just 2 standard poles from Amazon. They're probably like $20. These are shop lights. You may even have them in your garage. They're nothing fancy. And this is just like light paper. It's probably like $3 on Amazon. And I just clip it. And then I have just a regular shop lamp with a regular light bulb that sits behind me. So when you look at this, and I'll show you a sample of these, the right is this setup. The lighting on the right. So, the lighting on the left, yes, it was, Google used to have this really cool app where you could make a video. So, is this kind of cheesy? And I'm a little embarrassed to show you, but I want to show you how terrible the lighting was. So, I'm gonna just cringe inside. And this was a long time ago, so. It's just really dorky. Hi, my name is Rhiannon Beauregard, a licensed marriage and family therapist, certified sex therapist, and specialist in problematic sexual behavior. The most common question I get asked is how did I get into the field of sex therapy? And actually, I felt called into the field from a young age. I always knew I'd be a sex therapist. My mission as a sex therapist is to change the way our culture communicates about sex. One client, one professional, one reader, and one listener at a time. You can help me with my mission by going to my website, sextherapy-online.com. There you'll find information about services, the blog, and the podcast. My hair looked good, but it was so cringeworthy. Well, so that, I did no lighting, no sound. I felt the sound was terrible. It didn't mesh with itself. The lighting looked terrible. Let me see, it may have kicked me off of Wi-Fi here because I want to show you, I think it kicked me off of Wi-Fi. I want to show you the good lighting and how different it looks. Oh, that's the fun one too. I just think oh my God. I'm a tech person. I was hiding. You're right. Okay, let me see if it may have kicked me off of Wi-Fi. So I have a YouTube channel, which I just started for fun, honestly. I never thought it would be what it turned. It was really just fun. I do 2-minute segments about different kinks and fetishes and affinities that people have, and it's usually really weird, and viewer requests. It's based on viewer requests. And this is my highest viewed video. It's 34,000 views on YouTube, which and it's on pantyhose. But this is the lighting system.
I'm Rhiannon Beauregard, licensed marriage and family
This is
therapist,
just this
a
system right here.
certified sex therapist, and specialist in problematic sexual behavior. And today's Fetish Friday is about pantyhose. So this Fetish Friday and some other ones that I'm going to do are based on viewer requests. So if you do have requests for a Fetish Friday, I do listen to them, I do read the comments, and I will talk about them if I can. So pantyhose is an interesting fetish, kink, more men than women cite pantyhose as being a fetish, but for different reasons. So the idea of a pantyhose fetish is that you're turned on by someone wearing pantyhose, by you wearing pantyhose, by looking at someone with pantyhose, by shopping for pantyhose, or it can be sort of an auxiliary fetish where like you're into feet and heels but also pantyhose, or as a standalone fetish where you just love, you know, the feel, the look of pantyhose, or tights. I think certain people call it a tight fetish or pantyhose fetish or hose fetish. I remember my grandmother used to call it hose or nylons, right? But we all are talking about the same thing. And there's a lot of reasons why people like a pantyhose fetish. They like the feel of it, they like the look of it. What's really nice about pantyhose is that it kind of makes legs and bodies and arms sort of look perfectly blemish-free, smooth, the same consistency and color and texture. So a lot of people like that. Also, people like the constriction of pantyhose, whether it constricts the genitals or the legs. It just has a smoother appearance. People can like the feel of it. There are full head-to-toe pantyhose bodysuits. Some people like pantyhose in heels or pantyhose during sex to wear it. And some people just like the way it feels on their body.
This is hotel internet. Perfect example. I couldn't have planned this better. I couldn't have planned this better. Example, this is hotel internet, okay? This is why it's difficult to do it on the hotel internet, because this would not work for a session, right? Well, I mean, you get the point, right? Of pantyhose, right? Like, who would have thought that would have been so popular? Okay.
So people reach that YouTube by Google, by going to YouTube and putting in pantyhose, and then they find you.
Yeah.
They don't put in your name.
No.
They don't have to.
No. So I guess I've done like 40 episodes of this, and this, yeah, they search pantyhose and they're finding me. And I think the biggest feedback, this is a huge marketing tool too, not because I get clients from my YouTube channel, but I get traffic to my website, which puts me up the Google ranks. Because people in YouTube that are looking for pantyhose are not looking for sex therapy, okay? They're looking to masturbate to this. And they're thinking that it's me wearing pantyhose, but I'm just talking about it. And so it is what it is. Like, I'll just be honest with it as a sex therapist, like this is what my life is. So, but I will say that I've loved my YouTube journey. I really have, because I get so many sex positive comments and people that subscribe that really just appreciate it. It's like a normal looking person talking about a fetish that they had a lot of shame over, and I just sort of like talk about it like that, like very normal, like you like it like this, you like it like that, and just I've gotten just a lot of inspiring comments from my followers. Yeah, I never thought, like, I just did this for fun, really. And it was just a big marketing tool to generate traffic to my website.
But you're not using just a tripod and you're sitting in front of it. You have a cameraman, right?
No, it's this setup right here. Yeah, it's this exact setup. That's an Amazon Basics tripod. And you have to buy the extra thing, but they say, like, people who bought this tripod also bought this to hold the camera. It's this exact setup. 1, 2, this behind me, and that. No mic, nothing. It was pretty good, right? Yeah, I mean, and the idea is, like, what's more professional? Like, what do you think your clients want to see? It's the second one, right? Like, they want to see warm lighting. They want that warmth. It's something we don't think about, but like, warm lighting conveys a sense of warmth to our clients. And it's part of our creating a comforting therapeutic environment. They're in, hopefully, a comfortable space for them. It's important that you are in a comfortable space for you. And there's also that conveyance of warmth. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, sorry. Let me put this this down. How are we doing on time? 10:35. This ends at 11, right? Okay. Oh, okay. So the other thing is always have a backup. Always have a backup for whether it's phone. I use meet.google.com. It might be called something else now because I just got like an email from, it's part of your G Suite. It's the video conferencing. But if you type in meet.google.com, if you have G Suite with your Gmail account, meaning you pay like $5 a month to Google to have a professional mental health medical account that you have a BAA with, this comes included, it's free, and it's part of that kind of, you have a BAA with them, so you could use this too. So if you're just getting started, or you just want to try this, I would suggest meet.google.com. If it has changed, because I got an email that was confusing, all of Google stuff is confusing, let me know, email me and let me know that it's called this now. Because I think meet.google.com merged with like Hangouts, and now it's called something different, but I don't remember. Oh, and here, to do. This has been on my to-do list for a while, but as a generator. I've never lost power in my home studio or my home, but if I did, I would like to have that backup. What's great about telehealth is 2 years ago, my Northeast clients had terrible weather, and my Northeast coast therapists lost like a quarter of their business, half their business for the year because their clients couldn't come to session. And what's amazing about telehealth is you don't have to worry about that. Like, my sessions are consistent. I mean, every once in a while someone will say we lost power or we're having work done on the house and we need to cancel. But I didn't lose any business. But their clients, the rule was we don't see clients if school's canceled. They had like 30 days of school canceled in some of the areas that I was working in, like northern New Hampshire and northern Maine. So, but that would be my to-do, to get a generator, just to have, right? Like, I mean, it's like good home ownership, I think, but. Okay, I can't read this because okay, some ethical codes require you to be versed in the technology that you have and your client has. It's impossible for me to know what my client has or know how to operate it. That's where the 24-hour customer service comes in. That's how I meet that requirement. But again, if you're just starting out, just do it. Just hope for the best. When you started seeing clients, you just saw clients. You may not have had the perfect file cabinet or the perfect whatever, but you just did it. You just got out there and you did it. So just go do it. Okay. Does anyone use TheraChat? TheraChat is like a CBT homework app. That's really cool. So when you give your client maybe some homework, you can upload it to this app and they can access the app from their phone and are more likely to do their homework. The other thing, tablet, I'll share with you. And this might be like antiquated technology because you may have people who draw or whatever may have this with a regular iPad. I don't have an iPad, just have an iPhone. But this plugs in, and this is, I wanted to show a demo, but I don't have time. It's like a paint that you can draw. So I do a lot of expressive artwork with this. So I can draw images, I can draw a flow chart. If you're writing things, if you're a visual therapist, and that's important, this comes in a lot of handy with bubble maps and drawing, writing, and it comes up on their screen. This is Apple. This is a Wacom tablet. WACOM. You can get it at the Apple Store or online. Does anyone have a better one than this? This is probably 3 years old, and everything goes fast. But and if you're expressive arts, if you do expressive arts, definitely digital is a super cool medium to work in too. So, yes. It's called Procreate. Cool, yeah. If anybody wants to look back there, she's got, yeah. So that's the other thing. A lot of time expressive art therapists don't like that we're working in the in-person medium, but the digital medium is all the rage. So I don't do a ton. So I'm glad, thank you for sharing that technology. All right. Okay, I love this gift. It's just like, I just love it. And it plays over and over again, right? You're just like, so an interesting thing that I work with some clients with is technology rage that I wouldn't necessarily know they had. They're not coming to me to cure technology rage, okay? They're coming to me for something else. But through working online, I realize they have an issue with anger and technology. So that's something we can work with, right? Like, you know, it's similar to road rage too. It's like got some of the same kind of sort of corresponding presenting symptoms. So, but this just comes back to what I say, it's a work in progress. Don't get discouraged or overwhelmed. This is an advanced thing. Like, I'm going over things that it took me 8 years to kind of come up with. Don't be overwhelmed with it, just get started. This is really awesome. They're gonna have glitches. If you have tech rage, if you personally have tech rage, I wouldn't encourage you to work in this field, all right? But I also encourage you to maybe see a therapist for it, okay? And yeah, it's a clinical opportunity to deal with it. I think before we get into that, I just want to share like my recent personal experience with having a baby and online. So I have a home studio, and when I unplanned got pregnant, I was like, shoot, what are options for private practice people for maternity leave? Do we have grant programs? Do we have like small business association? Is there something for us? There's nothing for us. And so what having a telehealth practice allowed me to do was really be flexible with the time that I took for the baby, and I'm 9 weeks in, and I'm still very much more flexible. So it's a real issue we have to think about, whether we have a health concern, or maybe there's a vision issue, or driving is difficult, or whatever. Like, you know, as we evolve as therapists, did online therapy afford me the opportunity to continue to work while maintaining, you know, it did, you know, and it's not perfect. I see clients breastfeed, it's over and over again. I feel like I do the same thing over and over again, but I have the opportunity to do it, and I feel really grateful, because when I was doing research on what other moms do, everybody just goes back to work, because they have to, you know, and online therapy allowed me to be at home for portions of it, and then be a therapist, which is really important to my identity too. It wasn't just because I had to. I worked really hard to build my practice, and I didn't want it to slip away too. So just share that experience around it. I'll also share a little bit, like, I am so relaxed behind the camera. If you can't tell, like, I'm very relaxed by it. I love working in online therapy. I love seeing my clients relaxed. I love them, you know, having a snack or a cup of tea with me that they might not in a normal office setting. I love seeing their animals interact with them. I love seeing them in their natural environment. And that's part of what I'm going to talk about with this, because this is part of it, is seeing your clients in their natural environment. Can I have a time check real quick? Okay. Before we transition into this, is there any other, are there more questions about ethics, how to do it? Yes.
You were talking about your video conferencing program. You said it was through Zoom, but is there a name of the program? Or?
Yeah, the question that has been asked is, what is the video conferencing program I use? Is Secure Video. Now, in some of your EHRs, like Simple Practice, they have a built-in online platform if you use that EHR. However, you have to pay additional for it, and it does not allow for screen sharing or for multiple users, which is why I didn't switch to that, because I like to screen share, which is when I have something on my screen, they can see it. And sometimes I do have multiple user clients. I get really excited when I happen to have a long distance relationship where one is licensed in one state that I'm licensed in, and one is residing in another state. Like, I get really excited about that, because what would that client do? What would that couple do? You know, like, they wouldn't have any access to therapy, and long distance relationships are really difficult and present a lot of challenges that need therapy. But with the current Texas regulations, we are limited on that. So. But I get excited about that, yes.
So you never use FaceTime or Skype? Or?
Great question. The question was, do I use FaceTime or Skype? I don't have BAAs with them. I know Skype will give you a BAA if you do Skype Professional. It's a paid service, okay? Did you?
I was just saying one comment about Skype and FaceTime. Something to be considered is how
And your BAA should specify that, so it'd be important to read that. So yeah, Skype Professional, which is the paid, your BAA should specify what do we do with your client's data, which should be nothing. We don't use your client's data. FaceTime is not, like,
What's BAA?
B, Business Associate Agreement. It's what you have signed with anything that you use that might have access to your client's data, including my partner. I have him sign a BAA because he may be in the home when my clients arrive, or he may come home, so I make him sign a BAA. He's law enforcement, so it's not uncommon. It's not like, you know, he gets it. He knows HIPAA compliance and everything. But yeah, so anybody who might have access to your client's protected health information should have a business associate agreement. If you can just Google that and just find a standardized one.
I'm sort of just thinking out loud, the only time I've used FaceTime as my platform is when a client who I was routinely seeing in the office wanted her family to participate, so she called them on FaceTime. But as I'm thinking about it, is that so different from a phone call? Because it's basically a video phone call.
It's a great thing. We like to regulate the internet, but we don't regulate phone. Yeah, so you're bringing up a great point. You're bringing up even like a more, like it made me think, which is that because HIPAA allows your clients to have autonomy over their information, if she calls them on FaceTime, I think you'd be okay, but the fact that you're using FaceTime with her is the compliance issue, okay? So what I would suggest is to do like a multiple hangout, like on the Meet.Google or the secure video, to have the multiple places to have it more secure. No, we don't, there's all these contradictions in these regulations, all these contradictions. I could have a whole session of just complaining about this, like, and I can get hot. Like there's only a few things that get me hot, and this is one of them. But you're right, we don't regulate that. And to me, I don't have a BAA with Verizon, nor do any of us have a BAA with Verizon, right? Like, so, and Verizon wouldn't give it to us. You know, and then the government would take, you know, like I could just go on and on about data and information or whatever, but other questions before we, yes?
Are we required to be licensed or have some certification to do this?
Oh, that's a great question. The question that was asked, are we required to be licensed or have some certification to do this? Texas rules has required you to have 15 hours in continuing education before you do this work, and 2 hours every license renewal cycle. So before you do this work, you need to have 15 hours. Continuing ed related to telehealth, technology-assisted therapy. So there's a few ways I can suggest to do that. There are things online, I've never taken any of them. This counts, so count this, an hour and a half. If you wanted to do online mentoring with me, I am a Texas CEU provider. I'm not pushing that. I rarely do that. I don't promote it at all, but people always want to know more, so I'm trying to be helpful, right? So you could do online mentoring with me and get that 15 hours. There's a couple places in town that do 15-hour certifications. I've done them for other states, but I don't have anything currently planned. Although I've thought about doing like an online, like, you know, 8-week, whatever. Yes.
Ones that have certifications, or anyone you'd recommend, a lot of them online, and I've tried to do some of them, but they just give you some quick slides that you go through, and you can't download them or anything, so I always find I don't know enough yet to get through. I'd love to have some sort of, somebody that uses a manual that gives you some, information, some sort of a written form.
Yeah, so the other thing too, if it's, I haven't looked into this. I agree with you. I think a lot of them are like, they did something like this, they recorded it, and then they're selling it. And it's not the necessarily greatest value around it. I would need to check, because they want you to have 15 hours of CEUs. I don't know if that's from a Texas CEU provider, if they'll accept the online stuff. I would need to check on that. But
I took it last, I went to the LPC thing in Galveston, and there's a guy that came in and gave you the first half, and you had to take the second half. It's very expensive.
yeah, it is expensive.
But I got to know that they really, they was basically put out a lot of stuff that it was just hard to put it together and see the form of what that would look like. And they don't have anything in writing, no manuals, nothing like that, so it just
Yeah.
wasn't right.
Yeah, I don't have any, like, I would say the person-centered tech guy I really like him, yes.
Dallas Association of Marriage and Therapy did it 15 hours last year. 10 days and taught it. It was a minimal charge. Anybody could sign up for that. I believe he's going to do it again, but you'd have to check the website.
Okay, it's the Dallas Marriage and Family Therapy Association had a 15-hour, and it was good and cost-effective.
Here in Austin, the Practice ATX hosted one last year, and there's another one coming up, I think it's gonna be in June. So if you're interested, Practice Kennington, is the facilitator, and, application is safe for it. So that's what we're interested in. It's the practices, Practice ATX, and Matt Kennington, and facilitator. If you're interested in it, if you want to give me your card, I can get you added to the email list related to that. So I'll be back here at the end of the session, so I can give you your card.
Mathis is the president, so you've seen him. He's also was my podcast co-host, yes.
I'm gonna do a little something. AMFT in August, I'm doing a 4-part series on online therapy, so you get 4 hours from that with me and some of my colleagues who run a business on online therapy consulting. So come to the conference. AMFT is here in Austin this August, and you get 4 hours on it as well.
Texas is the only state that has such a high hour requirement, okay? And it is a little, so I'll just leave my face, okay? Like, so the only other states I've had have had 6 hours, which seems more reasonable. I'd have to look at what they mean by that, if it has to be a Texas CEU provider, which I don't think it does. But like, from my perspective, I'm gonna not conjecture, okay? Because I was gonna say, like, if you do a webinar on working with secure video, does that count? That would be my question. Like, this definitely counts. So I would piece it together too, but also, like, again, I offer the online individual stuff if that seems like more reasonable, and you can just email me, but it's not, please do not think I'm pushing that at all.
The only thing I could find, because I thought, well, there must be some requirements. The only thing I could find when I Googled was the original note on the AMFT site that said, we can't recommend anybody, but here's 3 different blah, blah, blahs. And I can't think of my, off the top of who they were, but they were not all Texas. But they were like, whatever that,
No, that's great, because you just reminded me.
Zeus or whatever, the one that starts with Z, another one. So there were all different ones.
AMFT has done some webinars on this. So if you purchase an AMFT, if you go to their the website and you go to courses or webinars, they have a best practice of online therapy for, I believe it's an hour and a half.
Yeah, they don't have like 15 hours of that.
No, they don't. I might like just suggest piecing it together on what you think you need, you know? Like, so what, you know, maybe that's the 4-hour part at the conference if you're gonna go, and maybe this session, another session, just kind of piece it together, but.
We have a 15-hour requirement that's like, okay, but we have to change it.
Trust me, I hear
It's
you.
amazing. So if we wanted, like, I'm licensed in California, if I wanted to do California, meet their standards and just not meet Texas standards, and nobody in Texas gets treated online, right? I mean,
Yes, except if you're in Texas and practicing therapy, Texas might think that you're like, that you need to be licensed here. Does that make sense? Even though you're seeing California clients?
right, I'm licensed here and California.
Yeah.
So like you, I have two
Yeah.
states.
As far as the CEU requirement, let me think about that.
Okay.
I feel like my brain's like a little mushy
Texas
right now.
may say, even if you're practicing here, seeing California, you might still meet our standards.
Yeah, and the thing too is that the likelihood of anyone getting in trouble for this is really low. I talked about this in part 1. Like, really low. You know, board complaints are not because you have 13 hours of technology-assisted therapy. And I'm gonna say this because, again, tolerance of risk, right? I'm not trying to, like, encourage you, but, like, can you tolerate the risk that some of this stuff might be gray? Sure. Could you call the board? I would absolutely call the board and explain the situation and see if you can get an answer about it. But as far as like licensed in California, licensed in Texas, and the CEU requirements, if you meet California versus Texas, it's a lot of puzzle piece fixing. The way that I've just solved it is that I only see clients in the 5 states, and I'm licensed in the state I reside in. And of course, I do have the 15 hours, right? Like, but you could, I think you could just knock that out. Like,
What if you are licensed in Texas,
According to Texas, yes. And it's not just if they move, if they go on vacation, if their mom dies and they need a session that you can't classify as crisis, okay? And I'm not sure, actually Texas even would say, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of another state law. Texas would say no. They're in another state, you can't see them no matter what is happening. Another state has a law that has a crisis laws.
That is my one concern, because I work a lot of full-time on more acute and stuff, and, I usually throw you in, I'm like, I'm doing my practice or whatever, but like, what happens if you have a client across state or this in crisis, calls you because you're a therapist, like, doesn't affect me bad unless we're handling it, like, the crisis first, right?
So this is tolerance of risk, right? And I'm gonna say this and, like, I don't mind being controversial, but I know what I would do. And the only way Texas would get mad at you is if someone found out. Okay?
That is to do your client no harm. When the client's-
Absolutely. I think these regulations often put you in a situation where you have to choose between the regulation and your ethical code. I do think that that is something that happens a lot. Yes?
You talk about if your client actually went away on vacation, what if you went away on vacation? You have a Texas client, you reside in Texas, but you are resident.
Texas says no. No.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
The challenge I had is when a client moved out of the country. It's a country that has no teletherapy, no even therapist regulations, therapy regulations. It reverts back to Texas. But the challenge that I had is when I called my insurance provider, they said, absolutely, you would not be covered. So always remember to check with your insurance
Yes.
about your coverage, even if you think you're clear with your license, that your insurance company covers that situation.
Yeah, so the such scenario that she was talking about was when you go, if you're working with a client in another country, okay? And so what I'll just briefly say, and then we'll move on, is that Texas says that you need to be licensed here, right here. And then in the other country, you need to be following the jurisdictional laws. That's Texas. Wherever else, you gotta follow their laws. Now, if it's like a no therapy, like I've had clients in Muslim countries. I've had clients in countries that have like no infrastructure, no roads. They're not gonna have a board of mental health, right? Like, so you wouldn't have any rules, but you gotta document. Document your search. I often put this on the client. I say, in order for me to work with you, I'm gonna need to know whether I'm violating the laws or not, so I need you to find that out, because usually they speak the language or they have more access to that. Put that, document. And then, but if you're following the rules in that jurisdiction and in Texas, you're good. But what she brought up is that your insurance may not cover that session. Now you can add that. You can talk to your insurance and say, I do international, can I add that as a rider? But your standard insurance domestically would not cover that. So that's not, like, because I've had that happen before. Okay, everyone ready to move on? I'll be available afterwards, and all of these regulations and things like that are on the app and my website under presentations. Time check. Okay, I'll just do 2 slides here, just really quickly. Okay. Online therapy is a way to deliver services. This is not what I was going to present to you, but this is what I found in my practice of this for 8 years. These are the models I find lend themselves well as a way to deliver them. Narrative, CBT, acceptance and commitment, couples, psychoeducation, couples communication, like model teaching, psychoeducation, collaborative, solution-focused, motivational interviewing, IFS, animal assisted with client and their own animals. I could talk about that in another thing. That's like my other passion. Nonviolent communication, Gottman, and others. There are definitely others. These are just the ones that I've used. These are the ones that I find are difficult in my practice, okay? So EFCT, Imago, EMDR, it's possible, but EMDR-IA does not endorse online EMDR, okay? It is possible. Butterfly hugging, and there's YouTube videos that will take it. Experiential, expressive art, possible, but also limited to digital media. We talked about that, working with couples therapy in 2 different locations. It's difficult. It's really difficult when they're in 2 different locations. It's not great. And I had an open-ended question, but I told you I would just do these 2 slides. So that's what I have found, and that's just as a way to deliver. What I was gonna talk about, okay, was that the online, I'm doing something much different. I'm not taking a model and delivering it online. I'm doing a model using the internet and technology as the primary relationship. Interesting, no time to talk about it. And I knew it would be like this, so thank you so much. I hope this was like engaging and not boring. And I'm around to answer specific questions. If you want to take a look at any of this stuff, feel free. And thank you. Thank you all for being interested in telehealth.